Can you describe how you establish a dialogue with students during activities so that you can provide them feedback during the activity instead of just afterwards?
Well, I do it on Google Docs, of course. So my course, as I mentioned, is a course where students practice writing. So if I set a writing task for them, instead of going around the lab and reading over their shoulders, which I think they find a bit intimidating, I do make myself available, but I can read them on my own PC. This allows me to spot some common mistakes. So I create, at the same time while students are working, I create a do's and don'ts list. And also I list some good and not so good examples. So when students are halfway through their task, I show them my list and I ask them to revise what they've done so far according to that list. When they finish the task, I assign them into pairs and I bring up the list again and they have to review each other's work. They are trained how to use the comments option, so they do that. And at the end, I show them also the good and not so good examples, of course, without naming students. But this is so, this document is saved on Google Drive, so they can get back to it. And also, they feel that they were given feedback by me as well, which they find quite important too.
Once you finish that activity in class, the students have had an opportunity to get feedback from you while they're working. They get feedback from their peers. They get to the end of the class, and as you said, they have a document with a sample of their writing. What happens to it after that?
Well, on Google Drive, I set up a folder for each week. So let's imagine if in week 3 we study how to write a press release, but this assessment is set up later in week 5, then I remind students to go back to that particular folder and look at what they've done, what their peers' feedback was, and what my feedback was as well. Also, saving my feedback and they tasks on Google Drive shows them at the end of the course how much they've done, and it shows them the learning process they went through. So I just find this tool really useful.
Good. How do you use Google Docs for the peer review process as the students are turning in their media kits at the end of the semester?
I design a checklist, and in class before week 12, in week 12 in my course, there's no scheduled classes. It's a time for consultations, but I want students to have their media kits, their final assessments, completed at least a week before they submit it. To do that, I explain to them what I'm going to be looking into when I mark their media kits. And I created a list of detailed questions that are related to the marking criteria. This list is uploaded on Google Docs, and I assign students their partners. And during the time of the class that we're not having, they have to email their ready to publish media kits to each other, and they have 2 hours to complete this checklist and share it with their partners on Google Drive and share it with me. They share it with me because I want to see that they've done it. Of course, there's no any penalty, but I think it does motivate them when they know that I'll know.
Yeah.
Also, I look at 2 or 3 of them just to see if there are any major problems. And I think it also shows them the importance of seeking peer feedback before they submit their final assessments, because in the past quite often students would flock into my office and ask me to give them some general feedback, which is basically me pre-assessing the assessment, so it compromises the assessment outcome. So I think it helps them to understand that there's no such thing from me as general feedback, but they can ask each other.
Do most of the students do it?
yeah, most of them do that.